Okay. This is a big room. So I need all the blue shirts to help me. Because all I'm seeing, everyone in the front gets special treatment because I see them and I answer their questions. But if there's people in the back, I might neglect you. So all the blue shirts, yell out if somebody's got a question. And in the back, you might have to repeat that question for me. So, any questions on anything that I can answer? Not things I can't. Yes, sir.
Okay, now, a fellow come in the store the other day and said that standard-bred mare that was racing her, and every time they hitched her, they had to have a girl hitch her, then the driver could drive her, but when she's in heat, a man can hitch her. And he said, what should I feed?
Oh, Jesus. Do I have to repeat the question? When she's in heat, only a man can hitch her. I think it's a little crazy, but isn't there one in here? Isn't the mare leave? Is that the one? The mare. You might try the mare leave with her. What does she do to striking? Maybe she got hit in the past by a man or something. I don't know. That sounds more like it. But usually behaviors like that are kind of like if you look at dogs especially, any kind of bad things that have happened to them early on, they can be really hesitant for certain colors, certain people. But yeah, I mean, I think if while she's in her cycle, if it's really affecting her performance, I would try the mare relief. Otherwise, just have the girl tack her up.
Back to your pasture tubs. What should we do and when should we do and what shouldn't we do with them tubs? I mean, what if I got one out there and I'm still bringing them in and I'm top dressing them? Are we overkill or are they getting enough on them tubs?
Young growing horses, I want you to feed them every day. I want you to feed them their colt grower every day. And if you just happen to have some lick tubs out there that they're licking on during the day, that's fine. I don't want you to rely on the lick tub to support your young growing horse. They were really designed for horses out in the back 40, whether they're retired, whether they were brood mares that weren't being bred, they weren't getting seen every day. Something was better than nothing. Great, put it out there. When you've got specific requirements that you're breeding these for longevity, for performance, I really want to make sure that they're getting every ounce of what they need. And the issue with a lick tub, especially in a herd situation, is one horse is going to eat more than the others. It's always going to happen that way. So it's not super specific about how much they're getting. It's a bit of a guide. So anything that's kind of worth some value to you and growing or performing, I would prefer that you be feeding them something specific every day. But if you got the lick tub out there, it's fine. No problem. No problem. Okay, so the questions in the other room were coming at me like machine gun fire. Yes, sir.
In the new poll, phase 2,
yes.
with the apple bovine in it, are we going to have to worry about hypersensitivity to mold or
No, you're fine. No, it's specifically for horses. It's fine. I know. Okay, he's pointing out one. Yes. I think it was something about the bovine colostrum and causing sensitivity in foals. It's a small amount of bovine colostrum. It is kind of blanking on the word, but really hyper concentrated, taking anything that's not necessary away, so it's only the specific immunoglobulins that are going to boost immune function. So we don't have an issue with any kind of sensitivity. Yes, sir.
I didn't hear anything or very little about dog products. I mean, is that something, who do I go to talk to? I talked to Daniel and Dave Bachman. They don't really know a lot of the stuff. I mean, they can direct me to some people, but I've got some.
I am not your dog expert, but Tina in the back could tell us if there's a dog person. The one person I'm looking at that is a dog expert but says he's not is John with the white hat on. He has performance dogs. But I would say talk to Randy, talk to RJ. There's connections that we can get him to talk more about the canine line, because I will tell you that it's not my expertise.
One specific question I have, do you have a product that has a zinc? I don't even know what that zinc is.
Oh, the zinc methionine? Yes. So that particular zinc comes from Zinpro, and that is the zinc that we use in all of our products, even in the canine line. So yes, that was actually some really neat work. They did it in dogs, and they also did it in these crazy Arctic foxes, and they were looking at their hair coat. It was very impressive. But yes, that particular zinc methionine, which is a chelated mineral. Remember I was talking about the organic chelated minerals and how we attach something to it? It's attached to methionine, and that is the zinc that we use in all of the equine products, and it's in the canine line. So. Okay, blue shirts, you're going to have to start putting some questions in there. Okay, there's one there, and then I'll go to there. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, we have a snowmare right now who's on the selenium and vitamin E.
Yes.
Because she's fine up last summer, lost a lot of weight, we had her on the oil, balloon, all of that, wasn't gaining. So we pulled some blood work, all of that. She's also gaining a lot because she's like just sitting in the stall.
Yeah.
So with her being on the selenium and vitamin E, is there any reason we shouldn't use Mary Lee also? Or is that fine?
So where does she get her minerals from? Do you have a commercial concentrate, or do you feed a vitamin and mineral supplement?
We do the commercial concentrate, we feed Tribute.
Yep.
And then,
And do you feed it to the amount on the bag?
yes.
Okay, yep.
And then she's on EDA, oil, and then the vitamins.
I would be inclined to switch her to the plain, straight, natural vitamin E, because you can feed her a lot more of it. You're going to be getting selenium out of the Tribute product. To my knowledge, they also use an organic selenium. You can then feed a lot more of the natural vitamin E, and yes, I would try the Mare Relief with her. Yes, sir.
You have a client with young stock, broodmare, and buggy horses, riding horses, and he only wants to feed one mineral supplement to him. What would you recommend?
I would buy the DAC Orange. So the question, he's got a client who has young stock broodmares, buggy horses, wants to just buy one vitamin and mineral. I would do the DAC Orange. Now, as you get into it, and he's using the DAC Orange, and then he might say, well, you know, I bought in a new mare, and I think she's got some issues getting pregnant. You might say, okay, well, you know, if you've got some outliers, she's got some issues, we might try the Breeder's Choice Plus with her. Or you've got some young ones that, you know, want to sell, we might encourage him to branch out and go with the Cult Grower. But if he's just like, I'm adamant, I just want one mineral to start with, I'd go with the DAC Orange. Yes, sir.
Broodmares do 2 weeks, not really bagging up any. She's on the Breeder's Choice, EDA.
Yeah, I mean, I think that 2 weeks out, she's not bagging up. I think, is this her first foal, or Is this something that she normally does? Have you had her with her previous pregnancies? And is she late to bag up, or she's usually bagged? So this is a normal occurrence. And she has the foal, and she's got milk, and she's fine. So you've had issues with not plentiful. Do the DAC metabolic, and start feeding it now, because she's going to have a baby in 2 weeks. The chromium in it will unlock more energy out of your diet. It's what we've used for years in the dairy industry to increase milk output. Do the DAC metabolic. I think it's 3 scoops a day. Chromium.
Would you have them increase in alfalfa hay as well for more calcium?
Depends on her body condition. Is she nice and fat, or is she? Yeah. So I wouldn't, because I don't think it's a calcium issue. It's just we need to unlock more energy, and the chromium will definitely do that. And it's what we do in dairy cows. Yes, sir. Oh, yeah. This came up in one of the other rooms because it was Elvie that said, in my area, the metabolic is not something that I sell a lot of. And he actually said that in Everett's newsletter piece, he'd written something about decreasing heat in horses. And I was like, yeah, okay. There are actually a lot of off-label uses for metabolic. It's not really off-label. It's just uses for chromium. Chromium is excellent for decreasing heat stress. So you've got buggy horses that you're using in the summer that are really or pulling horses in the summertime that struggle with the heat, the chromium. Brood mares to increase milk output, even just to improve oocyte quality. We've got the Breeder's Choice Plus, but let's say the guy over there that asked and said, I just want to have one mineral and I'm feeding the DAC orange, but I'm not opposed to having some extra supplement. I'd be getting the metabolic and feeding it to the broodmare as well for the chromium. So there's a lot of uses for chromium. Yes, sir. I would, until you know that she's making enough milk that it's supporting that foal.
You're saying, I do have a client that I do reproductive work on. He's got one mare that she has not been in foal in the last 3 years, and I'm doing it this year.
I would do the Breeder's Choice Plus and the Breeder's Excel. Breeder's Choice Plus has the chromium in it, and the Breeder's Excel is the vitamin E and omega-3 fatty acid. They're the 2 supplements I would do. The scenario that you mentioned earlier about I got a customer that wants 1 vitamin and mineral, well, we can bring in the chromium by adding the DAC metabolic. But if your customer is open to doing the Breeder's Choice Plus, I'd do Breeder's Choice Plus and the Breeder's Excel. Yeah, on this specific mare, those 2 products. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
On the metabolic, with a horse that potentially has Cushing,
Yes.
but it's also showing signs of diarrhea constantly.
Mm-hmm.
The customer has tried Sand Clear and Elite Gold. It's not relieving it.
Mm-hmm.
Would the metabolic be the only one you would go to, or would you add DDA?
I would do metabolic and rescue aid until the diarrhea was cleared up, and then I would have them on DDA every day.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
How long to expect for Breeder's Excel? How long does it take to see results?
In what results are we talking about? So the question is, how long do we expect to see results with something like Breeder's Excel? Fertility in stallions, we really want to start feeding it at least 60 to 90 days prior to the breeding season. Tiffany, Dave, were there questions in the other rooms that you can recall that would be good for this group? I can't really remember.
I think for this group, I think touching on stuff that is beneficial for tie-ups or EPM/possum disease are major concerns, as well as stuff that you would do for hydration purposes.
Okay, so we'll start with the first part of that, which was EPM, It was EPM and tying up, right? And so EPM is equine protozoal myoencephalitis. It's when that little protozoa from them getting contaminated from possum or even, I think, cat manure, and they get that little protozoa in their spine and they get all wobbly. And that takes pharmaceutical drugs to kill that protozoa, but we also want to recommend natural vitamin E and either the Rescue 8 or DDA, because the drugs that we use for EPM are pretty hardcore, and they will kill the microbiome, they'll kill off the bugs, and we know that the protozoa can cause some nerve and muscle damage, and so the natural vitamin E can help to repair that. When it comes to tying up, like PSSM or EPSM, they are disorders that we're primarily going to see in our standard breds, in some of our quarter horses or our draft breeds. And those horses have difficulty utilizing sugars and starches that come from our cereal grains like corn or oats or barley as an energy source. We know that those are really quickly absorbed and usually great energy sources, but with this group of horses, they have some kind of genetic disorders or some kinds of muscle disorders that preclude them from using those kinds of grains as energy. So we want to feed those horses, and you'll see they'll get really sore, tight muscles. Sometimes the urine will be like tea or coffee colored, and it's really quite bad. So we want natural vitamin E and oil in those horses, a lot of oil, because we're changing. Remember I showed you that 2 cups of oil was about the same calorie content as 4.5 pounds of oats? This horse can't eat large quantities of oats anymore, so we need to use large quantities of fat to get them, maintain their body weight and their energy level. Good quality hay, fat, and the vitamin E, because those muscle disorders are really damaging the muscle fibers. And then the last one was hydration. And so for hydration, again, yeah, we didn't talk about this at all today, but horses get dehydrated very, very quickly. So even in the winter time, we don't see horses sweating because it's very dry out. It's evaporative cooling. We see sweat on the horse when the air is humid and it's not drying away, right? So even in the wintertime when you're exercising your horses, they are sweating. They are losing electrolytes. The air is dry and it's being wicked away really quickly before you ever see them lather up. So exercising horses year-round should be on an electrolyte supplement. The difference between the DAC electrolyte supplement and a lot of other electrolyte supplements is that we don't use sugar as a palatant or carrier in our electrolyte product. Because sugar, whilst it makes it taste nice, it actually will block the uptake of those electrolyte salts. The reason why Gatorade or Powerade are really sweet is because they want our kids to just drink lots of them and buy more of them. If you ask your pediatrician or your doctor what is the best electrolyte for children, it's Pedialyte. If you've ever tried it, it's horrible. It tastes very salty. Tiffany and I both drink an electrolyte packet, and it's called Element, and it's very, very salty. So I know it's a good thing because it's just electrolyte salts. There's nothing tasty about it. It's salty. So.
Do you find that the electrolyte is also beneficial to helping a horse that struggles with tie-up and EPM to help flush out those muscles after the fact?
I'm not sure whether I would say with EPM other than increasing hydration, but definitely with tying up, yeah, you want to keep them hydrated because they can build up toxins in their muscle that you want to flush out. So keeping a horse hydrated is never a bad thing, no matter what is going on. So certainly if you think your horse is not drinking enough, using an electrolyte. The other thing is, though, when we're feeding electrolytes, I don't like to put them in the water because I 100% want the horse to drink enough water. I will put it in the feed, or I will use the electrolyte paste. The benefit with putting it in the feed too, and why even when you're doing an electrolyte paste, I would always give them a handful of something, whether it be hay or hay pellets, something to eat first, is those electrolyte salts can be a little abrasive on an empty stomach. So some research has kind of poo-pooed using a lot of electrolytes because it can be abrasive on the stomach. So I just recommend that you feed some hay or some forage before you do the electrolyte paste. When you put the powder on the feed, you don't have to worry about it because they're getting food to kind of buffer that. But other questions? I think we've got a few more minutes. Any more? Yes, sir.
So, a couple of years ago in a DAC meeting, they said to 60 to 90 days early or before foaling start feeding cold grower. But now in the last couple of DAC meetings, they were saying give breeder's choice plus. What changed in that?
I'm not quite sure who gave the meeting. I've never actually recommended to give colt grower to an adult horse prior to foaling. I would say how I would change that is before weaning, I would recommend 30 days, at least 30 days prior to weaning, I recommend that you get that foal on anything it's going to eat post-weaning, be adapted to it prior to weaning, because weaning is so stressful anyway. You want to make sure you do as least amount of changes as possible. But as far as feeding colt grower to an adult horse, it's designed for a young growing horse, so I'm not quite sure where that would have come from. But we recommend the Breeder's Choice Plus for brood mares and stallions, and brood mares especially if she's been having any difficulty to breed. And again, I do recommend that at least 30 to 60 days prior to even taking her to the breeding shed. I guess it's less important. Like, I'm not changing a mare that's been on DAC Orange and now she's in the last trimester. I'm not going to change her over to Breeders Excel prior to her foaling. It's more for her getting pregnant and for her reproductive success. Yes, sir. You're going to have to talk louder, Daniel.
Recommend feed to horses that are losing mane and tail and free choice minerals and stuff, and what would you recommend feeding in the barn to improve that?
Yeah, so great question about horses losing mane and tail or patches of hair when they're on free choice minerals. Typically, unless there's a young horse chewing the hair off the older horse, one of the symptoms of zinc deficiency is losing patches of hair. So in that horse, I would be, if they were on a free choice supplement or they were on, say, the lick tub, I might be inclined to bring them in and make sure that they were eating their portion of DAC Orange or Colt Grow or whatever it is every day, adding some bloom so that we're rebuilding that zinc content to get those patches of hair to go away before turning them back out. But it might be a case of that horse is the bottom of the pecking order, not getting enough of that free choice mineral to support their zinc requirements.
What supplements would you recommend to feed for
Say that again.
What supplements would you recommend for CD toe?
CD toe, what supplements would I recommend? Obviously, when we talk about any kind of hoof, decreased hoof quality or integrity, we always think about the foundation formula. But before I feed a hoof supplement, I am an advocate of something like the DDA. I want to make sure you're feeding plenty of fiber, you're feeding good quality forage, and that the bugs in the gut are able to digest that fiber. So I am a proponent of, number one, using something like the DDA, and then using the foundation formula. Anytime you're feeding any supplement to improve hoof integrity or quality, you know that it's going to be 6 to 9 months before we're seeing that fully grow out. So, yeah, but that's it, the DDA and the foundation formula. 3:30. Tina's saying, wrap it up. Wrap it up. Do you want me to start singing? They'll all run.